Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Press F for Feelings, a podcast where we talk about how gaming connects to our emotions, our mental health, and even how we treat others. Games are more than a source of entertainment. They are experiences that provide us with a wide range of emotions, from laughter to rage, and sometimes they even help us heal. My name is Gad, and I'll be your host for today, and I'm joined by the wonderful Robotic Tart. Liv, would you like to introduce yourself and say a little something about you and what you stream and kind of get the
Sure.
people welcomed to you?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Liv, but I also go by the online name of Robotic Tart, and I am a streamer as well, variety streamer. I started off as an Overwatch streamer, and then I moved to Rivals in Overwatch, and then also lots of variety content to the point now where I only do one, maybe 2 days of um, like PvP content, and then mostly do cozy and spooky games. Um,
Can't hear her too
yeah.
low. Thank you, GBC.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Hello? Check, check. 1, 2.
All right, you're good. Sorry
Is that
about
good?
that. Yeah.
Okay. Um. Okay. Awesome. I can turn myself up too on my mic gain if you need. Just let me know.
You should
Um.
be fine now. I turned you up way high, so
Oh no.
you
I
should
have a
be.
very projecting voice sometimes.
That's fine.
um. Yeah. So as I was saying, is that I'm a variety streamer these days, and we play a lot of games that are like cozy or cozy adjacent, with a lot of emotions behind them, a lot of vibrance, I could say, and that's been an amazing experience for me over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
And
I
that's how I
feel
met
that.
you.
Yeah. I feel that. I used to play a lot of Overwatch. I've since put it down for now and for the foreseeable future, and most PvP games for that matter. But I as you can see here, this is from Overwatch 1 as this was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I think, somewhere around there. And I just found this old footage on my old YouTube account. That's my personal one. I was like, you know what? These are some pretty good games, so let me just have that in the background. But a little bit about myself as well. I like to stream retro games. Is normally where I'm at. I do a lot of community-based games. Right now, we're playing Our Life, and it's one that one of our community members, Sir Lady or Fungi, has suggested, and I'm actually really enjoying it. It is a wonderful take, and I can't wait to try it with the DLC because I hear it changes the game dramatically or drastically. One of those. The only good Overwatch, yeah. Uh, but yeah, today we're going to be talking about a few words, few definitions, like what it means to have emotional intelligence, empathy, and like feelings and connections and emotional literacy and all that kind of stuff. We have those words on the screen, and of course, we're gonna go over a little bit and talk about how we see them in the games that we play, as well as just the games that have meant something to us. So the first one on the docket is going to be about feelings, right? Feelings is the emotional response that we have to our experiences, internal states, or interactions with others. And this one's kind of a what's going on, Bats? This one's kind of a simple, straightforward definition of what it means to feel. And I know that there's this whole segment is about feelings and how they relate to us and all that stuff. And yeah, any we'll go with we'll go with an easier question, as to not go into the questions we're going to ask later. But have there been any games that made you feel recently? Any kind of feeling, happy, sad, whatever.
Is that a question for me?
Sure, yeah, it's a question for anybody.
Um, for me, there's been a few, but one of the most impactful ones recently was Spiritfarer.
Okay.
We played that on stream for Cozy, but I thought it was going to be like a day or two of Cozy stream, but it ended up being like a month and a half, 2 months, because the game's like 65 hours long, which I
Oh,
did not
wow.
expect. But the game is very like pretty vibes. There's not any like risk of like death in the game or anything like that for yourself. For people who don't know about it, you play the replacement for the boatman for Sharon, and your job is to basically ferry spirits in the afterlife to what goes beyond. Um, and it ends up that the characters that you're ferrying are very closely related to the main character, people that the main character has interacted with throughout their life, and every single week we said goodbye to somebody,
Oh,
and
wow.
every single week that we said goodbye to somebody, I cried. Um,
Sounds like a game I need to play.
it's really good. The tears were like the characters were very endearing and
Hmm.
wonderful to get to know. But then on top of it, I'm gonna be because we're talking about emotions here. I want to be careful not to sound like I'm trauma dumping on the podcast.
That's okay.
But I lost my mom and my grandmother. My mom when I was young, and then my grandmother years later. But she was like my mom in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And I lost my ex-girlfriend who was very, very important to me. Um, and seeing this depiction of death in those games was very, very. Um, it exposed some very raw nerves that I have
Hmm. Hmm.
because uh, the game didn't handle it in a sorrowful way. It was like it was is a very introspective journey,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it just reminded me a lot of those emotions that I've experienced in the past, and that was very moving. And so it came to be that like, I mean, there's nothing as cathartic sometimes as a good cry,
Hmm.
and
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For
uh,
sure.
yeah, and even though like there's a lot of sadness that's there too, the game treats it with a lot of hope about moving on and about what's beyond this world and beyond any pain that we've experienced and things, and that gave me some hope as well. So yeah,
It
it's a
sounds
really
like a
cool experience.
fantastic game. I really have to. I really want to check it out now.
Yeah,
I
you should.
probably
I would love to
will.
see you play it.
Yeah. Yeah. For let's see. Bat says it was probably Final Fantasy 16. The ending just took you out completely. Hey, I haven't played 16. The last Final Fantasy I played was like it's 14, which is the online one. So I'm not sure if that really counts, but yeah, that story was really good too, and I really enjoyed that story. Um, one of the current games that I recently played that I really enjoyed, and it's one that you said that you were going to play soon, was Split Fiction, and there's a lot of different feelings in that game. From they really cover a wide range of everything of false promises to it's pretty much a game if you're a millennial or younger, and it's just like wow, this is us as a generation as we grew up and got to experience a lot of letdown, a lot of false promises, a lot of false expectations, and just so much pressure put onto us from the world to have this wonderful journey of like you go to school and then you go to college and then you find a family and all that kind of stuff, but that this doesn't really fit into the world dynamic. But it was a very wonderful game, and it's I played it with Arius, and it was one of the most enjoyable times I've had while playing a game. It's probably in my top 10 games of all time. And I'm excited for you to play it, and I can't wait to watch you as you play it.
Co-op games are so fun. It's
Hmm.
like I used to. I had a girl that I dated for quite a long time back in the day, and when we dated, one of the things that I loved most is that she always got me to travel because she was like
Hmm.
excited about traveling, but she was like a terrible planner, and I got really excited about planning the trips. the big reason that it was like something I was so excited and hyper fixated on planning was that there was no, she would get so animated and so excited and so happy about seeing new things that it didn't matter whether it was just like a new flower she'd never seen before or an
Mm-hmm.
incredible sunset, a mountain, like a million things. When we would go and see those, it's like I would experience it twice, once through my eyes, and then I would turn and I would look at her and see her and hear her thoughts, and it was like getting to see it twice and it being new for the first time both times, and that's like there's something incomparable to that. And so I think it's really
Yeah.
cool when there's these experiences where you get to do the same thing in co-op games.
Yeah. Uh, definitely. That's one thing that I've done before, but like I try to do, and it's appreciate things for what it is, right? And like, go out and experience those new things. And now I have like a very, very intact, I'm not sure if intact's the right word, different mindset of just like every moment has its own beauty. And even though these moments don't last forever, they still give a lot of meaning to who we are and the life that we experience in those moments. And so I'm always on the lookout for those kinds of moments because they happen every day, and they can be as simple as waking up and just going outside and appreciating the flowers to something more like, oh yes, like something like this where I've created, where I'm going around and making this podcast work. Putting Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep in there for me. That game was depression in a nutshell. No one had a happy ending, and I felt so bad at the end of the game. Like, no, my babies. Oh, that's another one I need to play, but that's kudos to them for being able to capture that depression feeling so well for you. Um, it's hard to tell a story where a lot of bad things happen to all the characters. Because we don't like that, right? As people, we like the happy, good feeling endings, and like, and sometimes it's acceptable and like depending on what you're playing and stuff like that. But definitely for like a Kingdom Hearts game where you're expected to be kind of adventurous and vibey and actiony and stuff like that, and just to really have it make you feel such a way. It's definitely a true. If the credits rolling, you're like, did you win? No. It's definitely a true unique feeling that a lot of people don't give storytellers and developers credit for. We have a new word on the screen, and it's emotional literacy. And it's being able to name, express, and understand your emotions. It's being able to describe your emotion from I'm mad to I'm frustrated because I felt ignored. The difference between reading the name of a status effect and knowing what the status effect does. Right? Have there been any games or any experiences? It doesn't have to be game related, but just in general, like you ever get a feeling that you're just like, man, I really wish I knew. Like, and this happens to me quite frequently. I try to get and understand my feelings and like the root issue of them and what it means for these feelings to happen. And it's much like the depression from Kingdom Hearts or like some of the endings for some of the games. Like I remember Soma had a pretty good ending, and sometimes it just leaves you with the questions of, well, what is the deeper, like, what is the definition of this? What is the deeper meaning of this emotion that I'm feeling right here? How about you, Liv? Is there a game where you feel like you couldn't quite capture the emotions until you've give it a minute to think about it and to process it and be like, well, damn, this is something completely more complex than I originally thought.
I mean, yeah, as far as like maybe more so like questioning why things are affecting me or like where the emotions coming from, like
Mm-hmm.
why um recently I played like a really tough game on stream which was called Wednesdays. And Wednesdays by the same writer as Haven, which was another really, like, it was a beautiful game art and story wise. that I really enjoyed. And Wednesdays was really tough and challenging because it was about a topic that is um, very hard for a lot of people to talk about because of their own experiences with it, or just because like the last thing we ever like to hear about is children being hurt, because children are innocent and weak,
Sure.
and like so being harmed when they have no control
Hmm.
is really rough. And so
Yeah.
the game was all about abuse survivors and their journey to understand themselves. And about halfway through the game, I messaged one of my friends and asked, like, I don't think I can get through this game. I don't think I can do this. I feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I feel
sure.
so
Yeah, yeah.
bad for the character, and like, there's so many tough things that they're talking about. Even though the game was not graphic in any way, um, but it just was so sad and frustrating to hear their story and know that it's like, you know, it's not anything like a lot of times in games you have some ability to impact some agency, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
in a game like that that's a visual novel, it's more about experiencing. You get some control over their responses, but you don't
Hmm.
necessarily get control over their actions. And so you can't like save them by playing the game hard enough or well enough, you know?
Right, right. Yeah. That
And oh, go ahead.
that reminds me of the game that I'm currently playing right now is Our Life, in which they do go over like a lot of emotions and how you're feeling, and the game experience is tailored to. It's more of just it's more of just a story, because the visual novel actually like makes you feel like you're a part of the game, in which your choices there's a lot of customizable choices, and they all go towards how who you feel like you are as a person. And even though they might not like affect the overall story, like not all of your choices may have a huge impact on the story, they still make it feel you as you're part of it, as you traverse and help these. You start from a child, and then you go into a teenager, and then young adult, and then adulthood. And through the whole section of it, through the whole everything of it, you're just kind of inputting how you feel, and then trying to like analyze how your friends are feeling, and then like sometimes they're not good at expressing themselves, and it's like diving deeper into that, uh what it means to be mad, what it means to be frustrated, like why, the why behind it all, and all that stuff. And it is, again, our life is a wonderful game for, and I said, I'm really hoping to get a chance to play with the DLC.
Yeah, and so like it with the game I was playing, I realized that like the reason it was so uncomfortable is because it was like a story that doesn't get told and needs to be told and needs to be
Hmm.
talked about. And by talking about it, we gain some power over it and preventing further cases of it in the future by people
Yeah.
knowing that they're empowered to get help, to reach out to somebody and talk. And then that made me determined to get through the game, and it was so good to do that because like the ending was so hopeful.
Hmm.
And I think that it's like it's always darkest before the dawn, right?
Yeah.
um
Yeah, for sure.
and I think that that comes into play too with like how we deal with these emotions. And like a lot of times people struggle and want to opt out of very heavy emotions, whether it's, you know, through self-harm or through substances, like other things. But like being able to see that there's something nice on the other side of that hill, um
Hmm.
it gives you a reason to keep walking, you know, and that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Those are definitely really tough subjects to tackle. And I agree with what you said. Like they're hard to, and not a lot of people are able to tackle them in a gaming media's kind of way, because games, a lot of people, when they think of games, they don't think of really like deep and emotional games. They think of, light and lighthearted, and like the good guys always win, and like, there's always some sort of positivity message in there, as opposed to like the darker aspects of life that we kind of not really shy away from, but feel uncomfortable to talk about. You still at work, so you can't hear y'all, but hope your first episode is going well. Oh, I love you, Jules. I love you too. Thank you, Jules. But yeah, we'll go on to the next word here. And this one's also a pretty more good guys always been win, but what did they lose type shit. I feel you. Yeah, for sure. But it's definitely one of those situations. This next word is connection, and it's the feeling of being seen, heard, and valued by others. From having those clutch moments to vibing with friends as y'all game, connections are basics. Some are short and some last a lifespan. And this is, for me, this goes in more into, I know there's a lot of single player games, but this goes into more the multiplayer aspect for me. I definitely see a lot of this in team game building, just, like Overwatch and Rivals and Team Fortress 2 and Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's definitely,
Drink
I've
water,
definitely,
you dehydrated bitch.
thank you. I definitely formed a lot of connections and through gaming, and that's actually what led me to streaming is gaming. And my I have a disability. I have gastroparesis, so I can't really move much and I can't really go out much, and it's like a whole deal for me to just go outside for a walk. And so my sister was like, "You play a lot of games. Why don't you start streaming?" And I was really hesitant at first, and I was like, it takes a lot, and you think of so many different kinds of excuses to just not hit the stream button. And then I started, and it started off with a small group of friends who were there to support me, and then it became what it is now. I've met so many wonderful people, and I've built so many connections because of streaming. I've met so many wonderful and kind and it's like so many people, so many different personalities, so many backgrounds, and it's all part of that connection, that base feeling of who we are and how we connect to people.
Yeah, I have a similar story too, which is that with COVID, and then I was like a year and a half into my transition. Between that and COVID, and then political stuff changing, and it was just getting.
Mm-hmm.
I experienced like a big change in like my fear levels about being out in public.
That's fair. That's acceptable,
Yeah, and then about I just ended up having a lot of stuff to deal with in therapy, and in the process of that, I really missed having the same kind of connections that I'd had before, because I'd only moved to the city I'm in a year earlier, right before COVID. So, I didn't have like a big support network here, and I online networks, and like I ended up like getting into Fortnite because of a friend. And then I went on a subreddit that was for like sapphic gamers, and that subreddit is how I met somebody that invited me to a Discord, and then that Discord turned into a friend group, and a lot of those people are my friends today. That's how I met Peach Julep. We all played Fortnite together a ton, and it was a real blast. And I think Fortnite's a really unique game like that because you spend so much time just wandering around a really pretty landscape. Like there's really intense moments of attack and running and things like that, but there's a lot of moments of just like kicking back and being ridiculous and doing stupid shit, and that brought us all very close together. I think that like games like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals can give you the same feeling sometimes, but it's like if PvP games in general are this huge roller coaster, right? Extremely high emotional highs and extremely low lows.
Yeah, for sure.
And that can lead to a lot of toxicity and frustration and hatred. And so it's also a good way to practice like being a good communicator.
Yeah.
Learning to understand other people's emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back into understanding your team and the synergy that we provide for each other.
Yeah.
Bat says, "Hell yeah! Some of the coolest people I met are from Twitch and gaming, including y'all." Well, right back at you. I appreciate you always showing support and being here. I love listening to your stories, and and I'm always looking forward to seeing what you what you have to put into chat. I love learning about new people and building more connections with people, my followers and my friends and everything, because that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And it's through listening
True.
through other people's life stories and how they experience their life.
I did an MBA in grad school, and the grad school that I chose because they had a very large international population, and I was very excited about meeting a bunch of people that saw the world differently than me, because I knew that it was going to change my perspective, and hopefully make me a better person.
Oh yeah.
And the cool thing about Twitch to me is that I want to say I love my like cis het neuro like normal, whatever you want to call them, like allies, but there's like this really great collection of neurospicy and LGBTQ people that come together on Twitch, and has helped me expand that network so much. And we all can understand each other and be there for each other. And while no space is ever like perfectly safe,
Sure.
we're able to kind of guard it together and protect each other. And like that has been one of the biggest amazing experiences for me, because I love community building. That's what I do as a professional career as well, is community building in tech, basically. This is like so personal to me, though. With that, I have to, I'm worried about making sure that everybody feels like they have a seat at the table. But here, it's like my fellow neurospicy LGBTQ people, especially, is like I just love giving them a place to land.
Yeah, for sure, and I feel the same. I feel, like I can provide a space, in which is what this podcast is for. Is providing a space for all my friends, and people who want to join in to be able to express themselves and to talk about how they feel when it comes to gaming. Because I know, like, from when I was younger, I wish I had somebody, like some sort of guidance, some sort of place where I could express myself, because I couldn't in the real world. And to a certain degree, I still can't. But when I'm online, I know I can create a space for myself and the people who need it to be able to express who they are. And that's what this segment's about. That's what this podcast is about. It's just how gaming can relate to our emotions and how we can create that space for everybody, or maybe not everybody, but for like the people who want that space. And yeah, I'm gonna read what GBC said over here. I think Silent Hill as a whole does a good job at the darker side of gaming. It's true, they do. I really love the Silent Hill series, and they do go into really, really deep and dark topics that a lot of people aren't willing to go into. Take James as an example. He really doesn't win, and we see different outcomes depending on certain things. Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, that's the whole point of art, right? Like a lot of art is about making us feel uncomfortable. And it's because it identifies real emotions. And those emotions sometimes are extreme joy or extreme lows. But those moments of connection and knowing that you're not alone.
For sure.
And video games are really good at giving you that opportunity to experience what others have experienced through their eyes. And,
yeah, they're stories in and of themselves, and they are able to capture such a wide range of emotions, and they're wonderful. I used to make, or try to make, games, made some personal games, but never published any. And the work that goes behind it is not all games have like a deep story or something like that, but the ones that do. They have the deep story, they have the art, they have the visuals, they have the audio. Like, that takes a long time to do. That is so much planning and so much work and so much effort. And sure, not all games come out how we want them to, right? They flop. There's some flops out there, but that doesn't negate how much hard work that goes into the game. And sometimes I think we're so easy to judge if a game is good or not based off of the content we play. And it's fair to have our own, judgments of if we like a game or not. But these people spent time to end their life to try and make something come to life, given the restrictions that they have of their companies or whatever. And it's one of those beautiful things that we get to see and experience.
It's an interesting point.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just was going to say that's a really interesting point because it really like lends to the idea that a video game doesn't have to be good at everything. It can be good at something specific, and because like a lot of times we've had our expectations set for AAA games that like it has to be not only the best gameplay ever, but the best story ever. And when we played Haven recently on my stream, there are several times I tilted playing the action aspect of it because the combat was mid. It was not great. It wasn't horrible, and it was absolutely doable to get through it, but it just wasn't as good as the as I would expect out of an action game. However, it was really just about me getting back into the ship so that I could watch a couple talk and have their relationship, because that was what felt so real and amazing and organic, and it was written so damn well. And like, so I didn't care how frustrating the action was at times, because the game was a story game. I was there for the story. I wasn't there for the fighting. And I think that I think that's a really cool thing about how far indie games have come in the zeitgeist, because it's really starting to teach people that, hey, you can get real value and joy and entertainment out of something that is, looks like a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
You can get really fun action and craziness out of a studio that had one developer. And that's been, I think, one of my favorite parts of streaming, is getting exposure to a lot of that stuff, because I've seen other people play the games and I want to try them, or I have somebody recommend them to me, or I experience one game in the genre and then I'm like, I want to try other games like this.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I'm doing, like, that's why I'm playing every PlayStation game, because every PlayStation 1 game, because there is that during that time, like, there were so many games that came out. And sure, not all of them are like amazing, but they all have their own thing about them that made them comfy, that made them cozy, that made them charming to somebody to some degree. And I'm having a blast playing it, and I need to get back into it. We're on like game 29 out of 1,700. So there's quite a bit of games to get through.
Yeah.
Bat says, I think that's why I still cling on to Destiny 2, sadly. It's the first game I ever played when I felt part of a community, even though it's a dying game. And, you hate to see that happen, right? You hate to see your favorite games die out, because I've had plenty of games that just didn't, like, age well, or they just didn't, like, didn't do well, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And it's just like, well, damn, I really, like, I had friends, like, you see me playing Overwatch here, I usually played with a 5 or 6 stack, and when Overwatch 2 came out, my friends just left, because one, we were mostly 6 stack, and the 5v5 was just like, well, we don't want to cut somebody out of our team, that's kind of weird. And then it just the game didn't feel the same. So it was too different for my friends and I to keep playing, and so they all stopped playing. And like, I get it. I've made, more friends and stuff like that through the game, but yeah, no. It definitely changed, and like, it just is what it is, right? The game is, I still have plenty of wonderful friends who play the Overwatch 2, and like, maybe one day when I get back into it, I'll join them. But for now, like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, I played a lot of games growing up since I was like, since Sonic 2 and Mortal Kombat came out. That's when I started gaming, and I really haven't stopped since. And I'm like, I kind of want to try different things out now. So that's where I am with all of that. I'm gonna go on to the next word here.
Oh, if I could, Fungi's comment about indie games really Sure Lady's
Oh
comment
yeah.
about the that's a really great point too, Fungi, is accessibility. And like these games that tell stories, they give us accessibility to these stories that maybe we never would have seen. Give us access to that, but then also because a lot of time those games, story games, don't require an insane physics engine and like crazy graphics. They're able to create games that are much more available, whether you're on a Chromebook or on a 4090 rig. You can play it.
That's true.
And since those games give us an opportunity to talk to other people that play them too, having them be available to everybody, there's nothing worse than like when I used to be a console gamer, hearing about how cool a game was from a friend and then realizing it was PC only.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, yeah, that is felt. And that is a good point. I've, not every time I've had like a PC that could handle the best of the best games, and like a lot of the times, especially growing up, it's just back when PCs and games were really, really new, and like you had to update constantly. It's like, well, I can't afford this, a new graphics card or a new CPU, and like I'm just gonna have to play everything on the lowest setting and then hope that my PC can run it, and just like look and stare at the ground for some moments just to get through some high intense scenes just so that you could play the game. I remember doing that. I had a friend who played WoW, uh, and his computer couldn't handle it. He raided, and he was the top DPS for his raid. And how he would play the game was he would zoom in all the way and look on at the floor, and would just constantly zoomed in at the floor, and have to learn the mechanics of the fight that way, because he couldn't visually zoom out, or else his computer would crash. And it's wild to see the different tips and tricks and like hacks that we have to use to try and like play the games that we want to play. Whereas like indie games is like you said, like Fungi was saying, it's just they're a lot easier to play on your computer. They're a lot less resource intense, and you do get that wide range of people who can explore your game and find find so many cool games that are out there because of that. Indie games are so underrated. Fell in love with Hollow Knight and Celeste. I have to play Celeste. I got Celeste from Livestream. I claimed it. I still have yet to play it. It's on the playlist. Overwatch 2, you tried it? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hollow Knight's on my list.
That's on my list too. I've heard so many good things, and so many people are like, "Dad, why haven't you played Hollow Knight yet?" But communities are what turned you off. The Overwatch 2 communities, what turned you off, Bats? I can feel that. Like the Overwatch 2 community is a pretty toxic one. And I've like, it wasn't only the Overwatch 2 community, the Overwatch 1 community was like that too. And I think the one thing that I really kind of dislike about Overwatch 2, and it's not just Overwatch 2, but it's just kind of like the online gaming culture, is more of an acceptance of toxicity, in which it's more tolerated, but a lot of people still just don't like it. They just tolerate it more. And I feel like games are kind of leaning into that more, because it's like, well, how do we get our players from like being toxic? And it's just like, well, maybe if we lean into it a little bit and like allow it in the game, maybe it'll stay in the game and not go towards the person, which isn't really the case. And it's not really on the gaming companies to teach people how to not be toxic or to be toxic. It's more of a societal thing that we as a group of people need to come to an agreement with, that like it's okay to express yourself in certain ways, but you don't have to be mean or hurtful to other people while you go about doing so. And it's something that us as people, we really have to have to come and agree upon, to accept it as what is acceptable as toxicity and what isn't. Right? We are the ones that would, like, we don't have to let it be up to the gaming companies to decide that. We get to be the ones who decide that as the community. And so I think having more spaces that we can create to fight against toxicity and what it means to be toxic, because there's a difference between like competitive, like in-game competitive rage and stuff like that, like, you know, like how you would see like a sports players play versus like them just outright being mean to each other, right? It's there's a big difference in that. What's going on, Willow? Welcome on in. You remember it was like yesterday, you were Lucio, you had a decent heals, but you lost and you got blamed. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna head out. That's yeah, that's fair. The blame game is definitely, a lot of the times we blame everyone else except for ourselves because, well, how could I be the problem? And then it's more of like you see the videos, or maybe you don't want to see the videos, but you look in the videos and you're like, oh yeah, I was way out of position and I died. There's no way that the healers could get me, or like my team wasn't there, like there was no synergy and all that kind of stuff. So I get it, you know, it's, there's definitely and the stats is probably, I could go on and on about the stats in Overwatch too. But I'm not for right now. I'm gonna move on a little bit. And to our next word is empathy. It's the feeling and the ability to feel or understand what someone else is going through. When a character's backstory has you emotional, it hits you emotionally so much that it makes you feel what the character is going through. And of course, this kind of goes into everything that we've been talking about, right? Just having, feeling what that character is going through, just being a part of that character's life, and kind of taking their story and saying, hey, even though this is a fake story, or maybe not fake, a created story, a tailored story, somebody had to come up with this story, and they made that story for you to feel a certain way. And this is why I like hearing stories about from people. It's because whether it be true in reality or not, they still give us insight to who that person is. And we can always learn from the stories that people tell, whether it be like a little bit about themselves or a little bit about a story that they've created to kind of express who they are in a certain way. And
Have you ever?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just gonna say, have you ever played Before Your Eyes?
No. You're mentioning a lot of games I need to play.
Yeah, Before Your Eyes is like was one of the first. So when I first started out, I just streamed Overwatch, and there's a day that I got like really fucking tilty. Sorry, pardon my French. I don't know if we're trying not to curse too much in
Oh,
this.
you're fine.
I
You're
control
fine. This is an 18 plus stream. We can say whatever the fuck
okay.
we want.
Okay. Well, I had I played this. I'd gotten really like tired of Overwatch that day, but I didn't want to end stream. And Sir Lady recommended that I try this game called Before Your Eyes. And Before Your Eyes was this really beautiful experience. And since I want you to try it at some point, I'm not going to give too much detail other than the fact about the story, but other than the fact that the idea is you are seeing out the eyes of a character that's experiencing things. And this is very much, you don't really get a lot of decision making in the game at all. You're kind of just experiencing it. But the way that time is advanced throughout the lifetime of this character is when you blink. If you use the game, you can actually set it to where you just like click with the left click if you want to. But otherwise, the webcam will watch your eyes, and when you blink, it syncs it up, and when you blink, it advances forward throughout the day, and then through the week, and through the months, and through the years. So you like find yourself trying to take everything in and avoid blinking, because you know that once you blink, you might miss something that happens in the story. It's really interesting. But you get so involved because of that in the individual character's story, that you you lose yourself to it. So it doesn't even matter that you have almost no choices to make. Your choice is to have the character experience their life. And the only way to have them do that is you to control your own impulses.
That's wild.
It is. It's an incredible experience. And the story, it's called Before Your Eyes. It's an incredible game too. But yeah, my God. that one, and then the other thing that comes to mind, and I just want to say this too, is I got really into VR for a while.
Mhm.
And the reason I did is because I had this experience where I played this game where you are like a robot on a space station that only has one human on there, and you're not the human, you're the robot, you're the assistant. But you're trying to help them do the tasks they need to do. And when you look down, you see your whole body is a robot body floating. And I got
Right.
like so involved in the emotions of the characters, so involved in like trying to help that character out, that at one point I realized I needed to drink something, and it had been 6 hours I'd been playing the game. When I took the headset off, all of a sudden my feet were killing me, my legs were killing me. But because I was so in their shoes in that moment of playing the game, I didn't feel that, because I was weightless in the game. I was in 0G pulling myself around a space station. And so it's just thinking about like the fact that they've made so many games that are focused on putting you in the shoes and perspective of a character. The empathy building opportunities are insane. But yeah, I would love to see you play Before Your Eyes. Oh my God.
Yeah, that sounds sick.
I sobbed on stream. That was my first time crying on stream too, so I felt super uncomfortable. But Funky was like very, very supporting and caring, and I think I got raided during it, which was a bizarre experience. I got raided during that other one Wednesdays I was talking about too, during a really rough time. And so but it was really cool seeing people come in and then be instantly interested in what was happening, because they could see that you as the streamer were experiencing real emotion. So that got them very curious. They wanted to know what that was too. So
Bat says it's Kratos for him. You felt his pain, he lost everything, so you get why in the new games he is like the way he is. It's very valid. That's understandable. I've played the first God of War game long ago. And other than that, I really haven't played much more of it, but I did enjoy it, and I would like to revisit. Those are some of the games I would like to revisit as well.
Oh, I have another one too. The Senua Saga games. Have you played those? Hellblade and Hellblade 2?
Yes, I played the first one. The first one was fantastic.
And it's because they did such a good job of showing her emotions on her face. Like, oh my God.
Agreed. Our next definition is emotional intelligence. It's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions. And sorry, I have to zoom in to read this because I'm blind. And the emotions of others. It's kind of like the party synergy. The more you know yourself and your team, the better you all play together and work together. And again, this is, this you see this a lot in competitive or team games. As well as, there's definitely RPGs and stuff like that, right? You want that synergy for your team. You want like people that go together, like the Rangers and your melee and all that stuff. And it works the same with online games as well. You definitely feel it whenever, like, you can have a whole group of amazing, wonderfully talented people, but they got no synergy. If they can't communicate well, then it all goes to hell, right? It's all one big clusterfuck of well, you were supposed to watch this, well, you were supposed to have my back, and you were supposed to do this, and you were supposed to do that, and it's just like, it doesn't need, like, when you have that synergy, you don't need to, like, you can work on it as a team without blaming each other for well, I needed you to be here and you weren't there. It's more of like, okay, I understand you needed to be there, but you weren't. But we can play it try it a different way to see if we can overcome. And it doesn't always work, because there are some ways that you got to play for it to be more optimal, right? And I know I've definitely experienced the synergy a lot with and having to understand my team in Overwatch. I used to play with 5 other people, and we all had very different play styles. And in the beginning, it was so rough. We would not win a single match. But as time went on, we got to experience each other's frustrations and stuff, and we got to see, like, we started doing VOD reviews, and we got to see the games from their perspective. We got to see the game from what they were doing, and then it gave me and my friends a more, like, a better idea of how to communicate with each other, to understand their frustration of, I needed you there but you weren't, to see that hey, if I'm going over here, I need somebody there for me. What about you, Liv? Have you experienced, I know you're a big Rivals and Overwatch person.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, well, number one, just seeing how your own emotions impact other people, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, I thought I was like really slick too at first because I would like sometimes mute myself or I would just like scream silently when I get really irritated.
Yeah.
And then I realized that people could tell that I was like, I would do this thing where I sighed and I'd slam my mouse.
Hmm.
And so it made me aware of those things, which helped me to kind of understand my own like negative feelings when they come through.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing too is that like this has kind of gone hand in hand with therapy that I've been doing throughout the entire time I've been streaming, and that therapy's around. I have like a thing called like anxious attachment disorder, and what it means is that like I have a belief that sooner or later, like people are going to realize that I'm not like worth anything and they're going to leave, right? Like that's my fear. And it's not a fear that always has like any real like credibility behind it, but it's really easy
Sure.
to build it up in your head, right?
Yeah.
Like this expectation that, that while people are being genuine with you and their emotions, like you're just one mistake away from them deciding you're not worth it anymore.
Sure.
And and so like playing those team games, it's like really, really hard for me at first because like I would just listen to their voices, like listen to the things they're saying, and I would be constantly looking for that proof, that like I was on thin ice, that I was like out the door. And talking to my therapist about those feelings led me to be much better at just taking a minute, breathing, and then reaching out to those people
Drink
that I played the
water,
game
you
with and saying
dehydrated
like, "Hey,
bitch.
are we okay? Did I hurt your feelings? Was
Hmm.
I like too sweaty or frustrating? Or did you like get mad at me or things like that, but in a way that is like a fruitful conversation where
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
hey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page, make sure that I'm learning. And it's led to much stronger relationships for me because of the fact too that, uh, these are people I want to keep seeing and keep playing with, and
Right.
I want to be a better teammate, and so it's given me motivation as well to really kind of dive in with that stuff, and so it's helped me a lot with my some of the things that come from my spiciness. So
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that whenever I used to play League of Legends with the same group of friends that I did here, and we used to play a lot more MOBA games back before League came out too. We weren't quite into Dota so much, but we were into a lot of other MOBA games that came out before League and like after Dota, and it's just kind of this middle ground. And when League came out, like, we played a lot of it, and like I used to live with all the people that I used to play games with, and we would, all five of us would sit in the same room and play League together. And there was, I remember one time that one of my friends, we got so, like, there was tilt going on like crazy, because they were the kind of friends who hated to lose and wanted to do everything that they wanted to win. And like we would blame each other constantly. We would, like, go at each other's throats, and we were friends. We were all friends. And there was one time when one of my friends, it was this one dude that I've never seen him act like this before. He got up and physically picked up one of my friends by the collar and was like, just really angry at the game we were playing, and we were just like, "Whoa, dude, it's okay. It's gonna be all right." And it's understandable that, like, you get caught up in the moment of online gaming and stuff like that, when you just, the win feels so much more important than everything else, and it shows like a reflection of like stuff that you're trying to work through, or something that's just like, going on, that's just like, well, why did you feel the need to act out in that way, in such a very anger and like powerful, like, just aggressive way of literally lifting somebody up and holding them against the wall and talking about the game. It's like, what happened, like, that transpired from the game into reality. And he was going through some things at the time, and we talked it out early or later and stuff like that. And like, I think after that he gave up League for good. But I definitely had my own moments where I was like that. Actually, when I introduced my ex to League, and I played with her for a little bit, and like, I she was new to the game, and I was very seasoned at the game, and so whenever she wasn't playing like how I wanted, I would get very frustrated, and like, and she quickly, and this is before we were dating, she quickly took me aside, and it's like, hey, what you did right here, never do that again. And that's exactly what I needed to hear, because I changed my philosophy on how I gamed after that. It was an eye-opening response of like, I actually hurt somebody that I care about with my actions, and that's something I never want to do again. Jiggly Jello says, I wonder why some folks feel like the behavior is acceptable when it comes to gaming, but not elsewhere in their lives. I feel like a lot of it has to do with the with the fact that when you're online, you can be somebody else, somebody completely different, and there's no accountability to be held for your actions. You can get angry. You can yell at your team, right? You'll never see them again. So why does it matter if you're yelling or expressing yourself, not expressing, lashing out your emotions to other people when they're gonna be gone, and you'll probably never see them again, or for that, like, for anything for that, right? I think a lot of it does have to do with that ambiguity, or that hiddenness that people go through of like, well, I don't have to see any of these people again. They're not, they're not real to me. They're just objects on a screen. There's a lack of humanity when it comes to online gaming, and like, people just don't see others as other people, even if being within close proximity, like my friends in League, right? Because the game is just, it's just that, like, it's just, you're not human anymore when you're playing the game, to some people, and myself included at the time. Like, when I did play League and I did start lashing out at others, and like, sure, I had a lot of personal issues, and that's really what it came down to, was my own personal issues of how life wasn't going the way I wanted it to, and I took it out on people online and my friends, until my ex was just like, no, we're not doing that anymore, and I kind of grew up. I grew up a lot during that. But yeah, and again, this is why I want to build this, like, I'm doing this podcast and stuff. What's going on, Var? It's because I want others to know that, like, there was a time where I was like that, but I changed, and it's definitely something that you need to learn about yourself and who you are, and like, learn to play games with other people, and how to handle your emotions, of the emotions come in, you process it, you don't lash out your emotions, but you process it, and then you let those emotions go. And when, like, I always see, yeah. But we're gonna move on from our definitions here. We're just gonna have those play in the background as we continue. Liv, let me know if you ever need to go because I know this is supposed to go on for an hour and we're already past that. So
No, I'm good. I'm good.
okay. So we're gonna go on to one of our main questions of the night, and it's this is for everyone included, chat included, and it's what's one game that made you feel something big? Give you a tight hug, you got it.
I can answer that one.
Yeah, go for it, Liv.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk.
Game.
All right.
Yeah, it I played, so when I came out, and had all the bugs and stuff, and I kind of took it and put it down for a minute. Said I was going to come back to it and didn't play it again, and then it got all the attention and love that it did. And I decided to try it out. And at the time, everybody that I'd been like hanging out with and playing a lot of games with had gotten kind of busy. And this is like during COVID, and I decided to really like dive deep back in. I was like at the tail end of COVID. This is like end of 2021. And when I played the game, I got to this point at the end, towards the end, where there was this conversation, and I'm going to avoid spoilers, but this conversation that was had, there's this line that I will always hold dear, and it said, the character that you play as V said, how do I keep up with everything that's changing? And the character they were talking to said, you have been keeping up. You've made an impact. Not a single thing in this world isn't in the process of becoming something else. Likewise, you never look back. If you've got to kill, kill. If you've got to burn it all to the ground, then let it burn. And at the time, I was struggling a lot with my transition because I had things had gotten a lot harder at work after I transitioned. My family had mostly kind of dipped out on me, friends as well that I'd grown up with and spent time with. And for some of those people, in order to keep them in my life, I still kind of played a part of that person that they thought I was before I transitioned,
Sure. Yeah.
And it was killing me to like live a double life like that. And so when I felt very stagnant, kind of trapped. And when I played that game, there was this moment of clarity that came to me that I needed to burn the bridges that needed to be burned. I needed to move on with my life and look after myself. And I needed to understand that, like, it's okay that I was changing. I had people say weird stuff to me, like they were so sad that I had to kill my previous self in order to be Olivia.
Yeah.
And that's like my mind fuck, to have people tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm the same Liv. I just like baked a batch of sweater muffins and have a different name,
Yeah.
It was like, but it was really awesome because like watching this character take control over their life, take power back. And I realized that while it might be a bumpy road after it, I would never be sorry that I did it. And so I changed a lot of things overnight. I got out of a relationship that wasn't great for me. I got a wonderful person I was dating, but we were more friends than we were anything else at that point. And moved on with my life. I went out and looked for a new job. Really focused on my future, and it's led to some rough things, but overall I wouldn't trade it for the world. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's very fair. I feel that because like I'm myself, I'm in like the process of figuring out who I am, and like healing from my 10-year relationship with my ex. There's a lot of like you said, having to burn everything and cutting out things and expectations of who I was supposed to be to figure out who I am now. And like as I'm traveling on this journey, I've picked up a lot of tips and tricks of like when it's time to cut somebody out, right? And when it's time to let go. And so now I'm more accepting of instead of trying to hold on to everything like I have been and fearing the end, I'm more of you know what? No matter what I say or do, life is gonna happen. Things are gonna change, and people are gonna come and go from your life, no matter how hard you try. And it's okay to have those people come in and to spend that time together, to have those wonderful moments, those all the moments, right? The joy, the pain, all of it, right? It all merges into humanity. And then when the time comes, you got to learn how to let go too. That's a big one. But let me catch up with some of the chat here. Earthbound, okay. Silent Hill 2, yeah. Those are big games that made you feel huge, yeah, or not huge, but like, impacted you on a grand scale. I see that. I can see that. Can I Bridge of Spirits for you? Had you sobbing the first fight? There's a scene about an older brother and protecting his two younger siblings, and that one hit you hard because you're the oldest and have always been the protector for them. Yeah, that's fair. I have two other brothers and one little sister, and we've kind of like always kind of protected each other, but like my eldest brother wasn't always seeing eye to eye with us growing up and stuff like that. He was kind of a bully to us. So the rest of us kind of had to protect each other. And like we still get along, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's definitely difficult, more difficult than others. But I love him all the same, and I get that feeling of protection. I'm very like I look out for my sister a lot, and I look out for my brothers as well, and us as a family. I know I personally grew up with that whole. I wasn't really able to go out, and I didn't have a lot of friends. So a lot of my family, I felt like I needed to protect them, and I'm sure they felt the same for me as well, and they still do. They still take care of me, so I feel that. Something big, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, that ending. Zack was a hero. You late? You just woke up? Well, come on in, Effie. But yeah, going back to what Fungi was saying a little bit earlier, talking about not seeing people physically and like going back to online gaming and stuff like that, or just even the fact that you don't hear their voice, you don't know anything about them, helps them disconnect from the fact that they are hurting a real person, and that's true too. I would have to say, for me, one of the games that really had a big moment on my life. There's a lot. I've played a lot of games, ranging from Majora's Mask to Kingdom Hearts. I think the one that really took the cake for me was when I was growing up. I played Final Fantasy VII, and there comes a scene. There comes a point in the scene where one of the main characters dies. Like not even about halfway through the game. Not even halfway through the game. Like slightly before halfway through the game, and it's it was one of those things that the developers did a really good job of building the bad guy up before then, of just being like, oh, he's just this bad guy of like destroying everything to get what he wants, and then he kills this main character, and I had like formed such an attachment, such a bond to this character, because not only was she the healer of our party, but her personality was that of a very kind and wholesome person who hated fighting, but did what needed to be done so that they could save the planet and stuff like that. And she just wanted to live her life and just like help the people around her. So it was kind of one of those characters that I could resonate with a lot. And then the main bad guy is just like, you're trying to you're on a quest to save the world, and she's just like saying that she's not worthy and all that stuff, and she finally gets to that point where she's on that quest to save the world, and the main bad guy just comes and ends her life right there, and that's her story, right? And that's the end of her and her ambitions and her dreams and like her wanting to help her friends save the world. And she was kind of like, Final Fantasy VII follows a group of eco terrorists that are trying to save the planet from corporations who are trying to destroy it. And so when that part happened, it's just like she was the last hope for humanity to be able to save the world from the chaos that was coming. And she died not even halfway through like before halfway through the game. And so now you were left with scrambling, like, how are we gonna save the world now? And like, as well as like the main character Cloud trying to figure out who he is, and like everything that happened and to in his life, and what's him and what's not him. And it's just the game gets very convoluted as you go along. But it made me feel so much anger in that moment for the main bad guy, Sephiroth. And the game did such a great job of turning that oh my god, this just happened to I want revenge. And then as you play later on, it's like, well, revenge isn't what she would want. She just wants to heal the planet. And so you kind of have to like come to terms with your feelings of like, girl, I want revenge, but I also have to like go about trying to heal the planet and save the planet too. And the ending gets a little weird, where in which I'm not gonna. Well, I mean, it's a really old game, but if you haven't played it yet, I really suggest you do. I know the remakes are coming out now and all that stuff, and it's a really good story. But the ending to the first game, it's just, or the first one that came out long ago, it's a fantastic story of going from that revenge of wanting to get even at Sephiroth for taking everything from you, to figuring out who you are, and then like coming to terms with who you are, and then trying to save the planet. And you kind of do, but you kind of don't at the same time. And it's one of those where you're left to rebuild. Things were destroyed, and you have to rebuild. GBC says Red Dead Redemption had an impact on him. Made him realize no matter how much you follow the rules, there's still a chance that it's a losing race at the end. Low key, the ending still pisses you off, and that's true too, right? And that's kind of the part of the biggest, like the big lie that we've been told, right? Like we have to follow the rules to get anywhere. And if we don't follow the rules, then we're not going to make it very far, which isn't true. It's just another form of controlling people. I'm not saying, you don't follow all the rules, but there comes a point of you have to think for yourself and realize which rules are good for you and which ones aren't. And to go from there. Ooh. Talking about feelings always makes me a little chilly. We can go on to our next question, and it's, have you ever learned something about yourself while gaming? Has there ever been some game that's made you learn something new about yourself, or maybe cemented a feeling that you have, and figured out something that like who you were, and just like, you know what, this game really hits home for me because I can relate to this character so much, and make it feel like, it makes me feel tied to them, or like, I understand a little bit about how I process information because of this character. I can go ahead and start. I'll start with this one. One of the characters that I can really, really relate to is Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Something that really made me feel like myself, and was a character that made me learn that, again, and this is, I just replayed Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and this goes back to like how he traverses from world to world, and is a big part of creating change in those worlds. and yet during this whole process of creating change in every world, he's still trying to get back to his world so that he can hang out with his friends. And that's something that I can relate to because I have trouble finding a home. And what I mean by that is not like a physical place to call home, or like, I don't consider my friends homes. It's sometimes I feel like I don't belong. And I've talked to Fungi about this, about uh in person, about like, she told me something that was really 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 smart, and I kind of liked her answer that we're nomads in this, and like we belong in a little bit of everywhere all at the same time, and it's really helped me figure out who I am. But so does Sora in this, in which in the first game, he goes around, like I said, helping everybody, and then isn't quite able to get to his own home where he wants to be with his friends. And then in the second one, it's about, again, he does help out more of it, but then there's this whole other side of him that he needs to come to terms with, and realize that he needs to make peace with who he is as well, as he continues to venture forth into his journey of trying to close Kingdom Hearts. Lady Numenor says Overwatch changed her perspective on stuff. I played Call of Duty for years and always thought that would be a DPS person, but he fell in love with Ana, and now I typically go for support type roles to enable and boost and help my teammates. Yeah, that's fair. I love the support role. The support role is my favorite role. Mercy was my main, and Ana was also my favorite as well. How about you, Liv? You got anybody that or something that you learned about yourself while gaming?
I guess like, I mean, I try to put myself in the shoes of every character that I play, but like some of them have just made me feel more okay with my emotions, like more seen. So like the Senua Saga was one of them, because like it normalized so much, like talking about mental health issues, and like the fact that Senua she still makes really great decisions. She's still strong despite having the Furies constantly in her ears, Then also Life is Strange: True Colors, like one of my favorite games that I have played over the last few years, and there's a character in there named Alex who's like the main protagonist, and Alex's life is all about change throughout the game. Everything is different. The place she lives, the people she's around, the people she sees as family, and it's all about her coming to terms with those things, and also coming to terms with the things about herself that she maybe doesn't like. So
that's fair.
She has a lot of anger about things in her life, and she's embarrassed by how strong her emotions can be. And the game is about like her coming to terms with that by finding her kind of chosen family that accepts her for who she is, and she starts to like believe and trust in herself as opposed to hating herself as much. And like I don't know, I totally like felt like I was seen, and that made me feel more normal.
Yeah.
The way that I regulate my emotions and talk. I don't know. I'm very thankful for that game. Not
Sounds
everybody's
like
favorite. Life is Strange, but it's mine.
Yeah. I remember I watched my ex play the first one, and I got the second one. She bought me the second one, and I couldn't play it after the initial part because I don't know if you've played the second Life is Strange game.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very beginning.
The second one's really rough.
Yeah, at the very beginning, I was just like, when everything happened in the beginning, I was like, this hits too close to home, and I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't continue, and I want to go back, and eventually I will, because now I feel like I'm in a better spot where I can go back and like process it without actually like being too deep into the like connected to the person to for me to actually like play the game more and be like, okay, I know this isn't me, this is somebody else, but you know, it just no, I get that completely. Those are very very hard hitting games.
Well, that's a really cool point too, though, that you're making, which is like one of the things that I've come to realize is that um, and I think a lot of streamers have this thing. And that's one of the streamers I watch. Like his community calls them flushworthy. Like when he plays a game and he doesn't love it, he doesn't go back to it after one play session. So you're kind of like left like. It's like needing to sneeze and you can't sneeze because he never finishes it. And I realize that I do that sometimes, right? But like sometimes it's because at first I felt like really bad about it, but then I realized that maybe I just wasn't ready to appreciate it or to experience it in the right way. And then like talking about Undertale, like we did before, I went into Undertale expecting one type of game, and kind of like when you're expecting to taste something sweet and it's sour instead, it's like the worst sour ever because and so it's I now that I've like taken some time away from it and I know what to expect going back in, I think that I can appreciate it more. And that's a really cool lesson to learn.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's just not the right time for something, but you have to keep an open mind because maybe it will be again, you know, and become something you really enjoy.
Yeah. I agree. Jiggly Jello says Baldur's Gate made them bisexual. Baldur's Gate has that effect. I still need to beat it, but my first two crushes in that game were Shadowheart and Gale. And I really like both of those characters. They're both sensual and sweet in their own way. And like I've always told myself, you know, when I play it again, I'm going to romance the other characters and all that stuff. I haven't gotten around to it yet, so I'm really interested to see the different romance options that they do have for the different characters, and like get to experience all that because that game has a lot to offer. And again, it's one of those games that it's hard for me to go back to because once again, you know, that was my ex bought that game for me and we played it in the beginning, and like there's a lot of emotional entanglement with that game with my past, in which I'm trying to break away from, but sometimes it gets a little difficult. And since I'm nearing the end, it's just kind of one of those like dual ending things, right? Where the me that wants to cling on to that little bit of past knows that it's ended, and that this game is coming to an end too. And that when it ends, I know I can replay it again, but it's like an end to all those feelings as well. It's an end to that what I'm clinging on to. It's an end to the emotional gift part of receiving that game. And it's tough for me to do that. And it's you know, and then you know, you run into time issues and all that kind of stuff, and then the next thing you know, you haven't beaten the game yet. But it's on my to-do list. It's on my to-beat list, and then hopefully I'll get there sooner rather than later. I learned, and Bat says, I learned in a lot of games just that in general, I do felt good. Sora's OG? Yeah, okay. I feel like Kingdom Hearts really teaches you a lot. The whole Sora being there for Riku, even though he was stuck in a web of lies in just a dark place. It shows that a friend is there and isn't willing to give up on you no matter what. That's true. It's true. Sora is always there no matter what. And it can be tough to make it to that area, right? Especially when your team, or not team, when your friends, I guess they could be your team, right? Make it really, really, really difficult for you to be there for them. But yeah, like that's just one of the things that he just never gives up on, and you know, he knows who his friends are, and he wants to try and take them away from the lies that are being propagated to him. Karlak got you. This is what Lady Numenor says. I realized I wanted a woman that could crush me, but will tuck me into bed with a forehead kiss. Hence my love for Tart. Karlak is mommy. True. You don't think clinging on to the past is always bad? It's just like saying good times. Yeah, you know, there are some benefits to holding on to things, right? Because that's how we learn and that's how we protect ourselves from future like whatever the future may toss at us. Right? It's a reminder of where we came from. And it's not always a bad thing, but there are some aspects to it that can be bad. And just like with holding on to like the good memories all the time, right? You don't want to get stuck in the past is really what the main issue. Yeah. Is was the main issue of it. And just like having like all those good memories, yeah, just got to keep moving forward. Exactly. It's nice to or can be like a little bit painful to revisit the past, but as long as you don't live there, again, it all comes down to those experiences come in, you process them, and then you let them go. And it's you don't want to hold on to them, you don't want to lash out at them, you don't want to compartmentalize them. They just are. They just happen, and they're a part of who we are. And sometimes, you know, it's really hard to come to terms with what's happened in our past. You don't want to give so many details of Undertale without or with spoilers, but I love the way they show how you can take the easy path of violence and negativity, or you can struggle, resist, be patient, be determined for the sake of kindness. And that's true too. Even though I haven't played Undertale, I know about it, a lot about it, like a good bit about it. And there's there's a quote that I always like to reference, and I'm just gonna paraphrase it because I can't, like, you know, I never remember it fully. But there's the easy way, and then there's the right way, and those two paths rarely are the same, because being like taking the easy way out is always easier. It's more of a, well, it's easier. Like, who doesn't want the easy way? That's just the law of nature, right? To go for the easier path. But that doesn't always make it the right path. And I think what we're seeing right here is the result of that, right? A lot of people want that easier path of going back to the old days of not having to think so much, or which, you know, it's just not having so much responsibilities put upon them. And that's not necessarily the right way to live as you move forward, because we can't go back to those times. There's no going back to those easier times for us, because we grew up at one point, or we're still growing, and we're still growing. Like, every day I learn something new, and there's no going back to reverting to how I was in my 20s when I was a jerk or mean spirited, and I would take out my frustration on people, because it doesn't work that way. You know, life doesn't work that way. And just because you can take that easy path doesn't mean that you should, or that it's the right thing to do. You remember in your early 20s, you were living life, you had your own apartment, had a girlfriend at the time. It was your first time being alone, but eventually shit went south. But hey, no regrets. Yeah, it happens. Always makes me think of Meet the Robinsons. Keep moving forward. Yeah, we got it. I mean, that's the only thing we can do, is keep moving forward. And in the spirit of keep moving forward, we're going to ask our next question. Do you think gaming has made you feel better at handling emotions or relationships? For me personally, it's a yes and no situation. When I figured out how to process emotions, things clicked. There's a lot of tools that growing up that we just didn't have, or not didn't have, like the resources were there but they weren't available, or there's things that I didn't know about. And so when I played games like, the ones that mean so much to me, like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts and all that stuff, I would say a younger me would not have understood it. Even a young adult, like up to 25, I would not have understood it. And it wasn't until I started learning those different tools about how to process emotions and what it means to go from because I've been an empathetic person my whole life, but to actually understand what it means for these people to go on these journeys instead of just like playing the game or watching the movie and just be like, oh yeah, they went on a cool adventure. That deeper meaning was unlocked to me when I finally had the right tools to understand the essence behind it. And like, it's different from like diving into literature and understanding the power behind the words. And like getting it from a book as opposed to experiencing it yourself. Because when I did read and I still wouldn't quite grasp the lessons behind it. Like sure, the overall like levels of it, yes. And reading it and understanding literature, I could do that, but for me personally, I couldn't process it myself. So when I finally learned how to change my mind to process what people were saying, then yes, the video games changed so much for me. They changed the whole dynamic of how I learn. They changed the whole dynamic of how I feel for people. They changed everything for me. Sir Sir Lady says, I think gaming has shown me the worst of you or me, but that has taught me a lot about myself and understand things of the ugly side. Yeah, and that's fair too. That's really true. We learn a lot about the games that we played from what we play, and again, they're more than just these contraptions for entertainment. You can live so much through a game. You can experience who you are through gaming. And again, like I said, once I figured out the tools of how to express myself, how to use the tools to express myself, I started seeing myself more in gaming and how I understand who I am as well as who I was and who I like how I go forward. And I see it with when I say relationships, I mean my friendships as well, because those are relationships too. It's all part of connections, right? I see patterns now, and they're a lot easier to notice, and for me to say, "Hey, this pattern isn't a good pattern," or "I don't want to be associated with this pattern," and it's easier for me to make those decisions, those tougher decisions of cutting somebody out when they need to be cut out because it's just not quite the right fit. And it's not to say anything bad about anybody else. It's just we didn't fit. And it comes to those, the moment came, we experienced the moment, and then we left. How about you,
Yeah,
Liv?
I would agree with all that. I think just gaming is another medium that has like helped me to understand how normal I am,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. There's so many things that society sees as negative, like everybody's encouraged to. There's this idea, right, of like that we all need to be happy, that we all need to be successful according to some sort of like metric that has to do with, not to make this like that kind of speech, but it has to do with my therapist has talked to me a lot about like having to qualify everything based on output. Like capitalism has taught us, right, that it's only valuable if it produces monetary value.
Right.
And so it used to be that when I was like growing up, the games I played the most were things like Battlefield. I played a ton of Battlefield over the years, right? I played a ton of Destiny 2, like other things like that. But getting into indie games, which it started for me with Firewatch and What Remains of Edith Finch, were the two like.
Those are both really good games.
They are, and two of my like favorites of all time. And then I played Gone Home because of
Mhm.
What Remains of Edith Finch, and I was just like I was googling constantly Reddit, where
Mhm.
can I find games that are like these two games, And so then all these walking simulator games were starting to be popular. I started playing them, but what they showed me a lot of times is that the characters were seen as what would be seen normally as deeply flawed. They had emotional regulation issues. They
Sure.
had mental health issues. They might be neurospicy in some ways. They had depression and things, and it's like, but the characters were all able to see through in their own story, and maybe their story isn't about saving the princess and beating Ganondorf. Maybe their story is about finding somebody that they can love that loves them the same way. Maybe
Mhm.
it's about them moving to a new city and finding community. Um, but it it normalized a lot of the fears I had about myself that I'd spent so long pretending weren't part of me, because I wanted to be seen as strong, as
Right.
brave, as determined. Um, and I think that there's just something unique to video games in that medium that a book or a movie can't bring you the same feeling of identification of those things, because it's like when you read a story, it's a story. When you experience it as the character, there's just something that makes it so much more realistic about yourself too.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so yeah, I I don't know. The negative side to that is that it gets really easy to start getting excited about like living through those characters as opposed to like leaving my apartment and
Yeah.
having those experiences myself. So I try really hard to remind myself that I aspire to have worthy stories again that somebody could make a game out of.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that, and therefore find motivation. Um, yeah.
Oh yeah. And again, this goes back to the game I'm playing right now, Our Life. They have every like at the end of every section, they have like the summer, and during that summer, you make memories through what are called moments, right? And this is one thing I really like about the game is that there's a lot of moments uh that you can enjoy, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, from like some of those moments were just going to the beach, some of those moments were having dinner, some of those moments were very like everyday things that mean something to us. And it's like you said, of getting out more and like experiencing those moments for yourself. It's one thing to live the life through video games and like experience their story, and that becomes a part of your story because you played the game, right? You're a little bit of that character during the time that you're playing them because you are living that story. But you also want, maybe there's a want to live more than that story that you're seeing there, like creating those moments, like you said, the people would want to, like, capture of you know going out and like, like we've talked about before, and like the lost tapes, going out and renting a cabin with friends and just chilling out and like hanging out for a summer or like a week or something, a weekend, and just catching up with old friends and new friends and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. And I think that's something that, like, when I know personally, I feel like things do have to be extravagant. It's like, oh man, or they used to. Now it's a little bit different because I have a different perspective because I can't go out much anyway. So like anytime I get to go out, I'm like, yes, I get to go out. But yeah, no, I understand that completely. I understand creating those moments that you feel are joyous and cherishable in your life. That goes beyond gaming. That's something that gaming can't capture. That it requires a little bit more than just being a part of the story. It requires you to be that story.
Can I don't know if you had planned a question around this, so I apologize if
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
but like, can I just say too that like the coolest thing about streaming to me, um, once I moved away from Overwatch and moved to uh story games and horror games and other things, has been the experience of experiencing something like that with somebody else, and that is like
Mm-hmm.
the chat audience, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made me like I've always enjoyed watching streamers, but a lot of times I watch streamers for multiplayer games that I played, right?
Sure.
So I watched
Mm-hmm.
other Overwatch streamers and Fortnite streamers, things like that. But like one of the things it's given me an appreciation for is watching somebody's emotions and experiences when they play through games. And there was one day that we were talking about this on stream, and I brought up a clip from Midsommar, where
Mm-hmm.
the scene where if you're familiar with the movie where
Oh
all
yeah.
of the women, yeah, so all the women are in the barn and the one woman's just seen her boyfriend cheating on her,
Yeah.
and she's like melting down and they all start melting down with her, and they're all like mirroring emotions, which is sinister in the movie because it's about like cults and things like that,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But there's the reason that cults misuse that is because there's power to it, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
power in the fact that like it's the same thing with I used to be very involved in church when I was a kid, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like in a praise band and stuff like that, right? And I used to joke around that like praise that if anybody here is a Christian and goes to evangelical church, understand that I'm not mad at you for it. I'm glad that if you found some peace and some love for yourself, however that might take shape and form. But I used to joke around all the time that I participated in mind control because like when you play like certain chords, they make people happy. When you say play certain chords on a guitar, they make people sad. So like E minor is a sad chord. G, C, D are happy chords. So if you want people to really feel things, you hit them with the E minor, and then you tell a story of hope and you hit them with the G, C, D, and like that will make them feel like they're on cloud nine as they experience it with everyone around them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the positive side of streaming is in streaming a lot of these games is that these games offer such incredibly diverse um like experiences and viewpoints, and you're experiencing that and you're taking from it lessons and like new ways of thinking, and then your chat is experiencing it and may take something different from it, and they share
Mm-hmm.
it with you, and when they share it with you, it creates that moment, that echo, where you say, okay, wait a second, why are they experiencing that and I'm thinking of it this way? Maybe they're right, maybe that's the way to look at it, this is the way that the character is motivated. And you have these discussions that create these intense emotions unto themselves, and my god, there's nothing comparable to it. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
such a cool experience, and it's made it so at first when I first started playing single player games, I stopped playing them as much on my own because I was like, that's good content, I had content
Yeah.
brain, I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't play that outside of stream, I miss out on playing it on stream. But then over time it became more of a I don't want to play it without chat, because fuck man, it's so much better with chat there, because like chat really helps me get the most out of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I help them because like they maybe wouldn't get around to playing this game on their own, or maybe they just want to have that connection too, and it enhances the connection between us. Um, and it can be a really healthy and positive thing. And my
Sure.
God,
Yeah.
like it's the best. Sorry, Fungi. I didn't mean to insult your religion. That's why I was being very clear and careful that there are places that misuse it and places that don't. So, but it is a very core part of humanity, I think, and that tribalism that we have. And I think Twitch brings that about in a way that no other entertainment medium can.
Sure. Yeah. I can
Maybe the
definitely see
closest would
that.
be like a book reading, like where somebody does like a book signing and they read their own book,
Mm-hmm.
and like the audience is there and they're like experiencing the book with the author. But I really, movies, TV shows, none of that stuff gives you the exact same feeling because you can't interact with them. You can't be a part of of the story of them experiencing the story. And, yeah, like I could never go back to just playing Overwatch on stream. As much as I like Overwatch sometimes still, not as much as I used to, but still, or like Marvel Rivals, I couldn't only play that on stream because I'd just be thinking about the fact that, man, I'd really like to experience this other thing with chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, and that's part of why I started branching out too, because I used to play a lot of Overwatch on stream, and like a lot of Pokemon on stream, and like a lot of like these single franchises where they're lovable games, and I love playing them, but it's just like I want something more fulfilling than this. And like, you know, I used to do 24 hours
there.
of perfect aspect. Thank you for the follow. I used to you know, I still love playing them. And you know me, you've seen, you know, you've tuned in for my 24-hour Overwatch streams. I loved, or I used to love the game, and don't get me wrong, I still do. Playing it is just like I said, you know, it's something I'm trying to move away from because there's other things I want to experience. And it's just like experiencing different genres with people. This is also something that I want to have more experiences. Hey man, long time no speak. Welcome on in. We're gonna catch up with the chat a little bit here, just real quick. Bats said, "While gaming, I started to understand the villains, and that's very understandable. You know, the villains have come a long way from being one dimensional of just being the bad guy to actually having story and background themselves. So it's yeah, games that have done it right. You know, you can see that more than one dimension character in the villains, and hell, even some of the 1D villains are pretty cool too. But yeah, the evolvement of, or the evolution of villains from just wanting to destroy everything to actually like having their own agenda, to actually being people who were hurt at some point and have taken that anger or that rage or their passion and are trying to apply it to the world. And if this is something like and again, I'm going to use something from Overwatch. You know, we see Life Weaver talk about how his new technology is supposed to save the world, right? It's just supposed to be this wonderfully joyous thing, and you know, Sigma gives him a warning about, hey, we all have these wonderful thoughts about how our creations, but when it gets away from us because of whatever reason, right? Because we never have full control over what we create, or just, you know, what we enter into the world. Like what started off as a good idea can easily turn into so much destruction. And that's one of the one like interactions between Sigma and Lifeweaver that I always loved, because like Sigma is one of my favorite characters in the game, and then I just like I relate to him very much so. And his view of like more than one dimensional of things can go wrong despite all your best intentions, and sometimes we just don't have a say over it. And that's why I really like, you know, a good bad guy, because like sometimes they're not bad, sometimes they're just them, and they see something like from a different perspective that other like the protagonists don't see. And so like, you know, he then, you know, they just sometimes their methodology isn't the greatest, or something happens along the way, and like something changes in their vision. But yeah, I that's and like I said, that's one of the wonderful things uh about having a more than one dimensional villain. Let's see, continuing what Sir Lady said, and one of those lessons is that if you're too critical of yourself, it's easier to judge and criticize others, aka being toxic in multiplayer games. But once you learn to accept and forgive yourself, it's easier to do the same to others. Respect comes from within. Yeah, yeah, and that's true, and I agree with that. I agree with that a lot. Bat says, even like when a good guy changed, Jak and Daxter is a good example. In Jak 2, he's so dark, he was tortured for years. Oh dang, I didn't know that. That's one of the series I want to play, and I haven't gotten a chance to play yet. But yeah, that would definitely take a like a toll on somebody's life, being tortured for a long amount of time. Sigma and Sombra's interactions always make you smile. Yeah, they have a lot of good interactions, and this is one of the things I like about Overwatch, is that their banter can be really good sometimes, and it gives more like Talon are supposed to be the bad guys, and Overwatch are supposed to be the good guys, and like you start seeing more and more human aspects of each player, of each character, and how they interact with each other. And it's not like the line of good and bad and like good and evil and stuff like that is just, it's not like so clear cut. There's no good or evil. There's perspectives, there's actions, and there's consequences to those actions. And like, sure, there are some more heinous actions than others. Like, it doesn't fully encapsulate somebody saying they're bad. Thoughts on a good guy that gets placed in a bad guy scenario, like Wreck-It Ralph, so to speak? How do you feel about that choice of, I don't believe in this, but I have to do it? That's a good question. Yeah, there are some clear-cut evil people in this world. Don't get me wrong. There are some clear-cut evil people that we should not have tolerance for. And to fight against the evilness that they provide. But yeah, no, that's a good question, right? Because the flip side of that, right, is kind of like Batman, right? He's a good guy that's only experiences the thing that he does to fight the evils in this world, right? So he's a good guy that is placed in a position to be good because of the atrocities that happen to him. And it falls into that role of then he forms his Bat family, right? And then he provides for his Bat family so that when he's gone, his family doesn't have to deal with, like, they have their own problems that they have to deal with, but it's not necessarily the same ones that he did. And we're going on for people like Wreck-It Ralph, right? The you don't believe in having to be the bad guy, but you have to do it. And like the whole story of him saying, "Hey, I don't have to be this bad guy anymore," right? It's taking that narrative of you are the bad guy, and reframing yourself to saying, I don't have to, like, taking the expectations off of you and just being, just existing, just going off of like who you are, right? And lifting those expectations of being put into a scenario where, you're the quote unquote bad guy and you have to be the quote unquote bad guy. But who is telling you you have to be this bad guy? Right? Who is the overall person who is giving that power or putting that power over you of being, you got to be the bad guy? And that's one of those things of, you have to, again, it goes by like what GBC was saying about Red Dead Redemption, following the rules, right? John followed all the rules of being a good guy by the law, right? And then how did that turn out for him, right? It's just one of those things of like, how much are you willing to be a puppet versus taking life into your own hands and being the hand that controls where you want to go and how you want to move and all that stuff. So that's a very good question. Oh, you got placed in the ads? You didn't hear the response? The response was, that's very unfortunate. The response was pretty much when you're put in a place such as that where you are deemed a bad guy. Back now. When you're put into a place where you are designed to be the bad guy or designed to be the good guy or designed to be anybody, right? The important thing is to question who is putting you there. And if the answer is not yourself, then you have to start taking action to have control over your life again, right? Just like Ralph did, right? He was the bad guy, and then he went on this whole adventure of learning that he doesn't have to be the bad guy. And sure that, like, when he goes back to his game, he has to act like he's a bad guy for the game, but afterwards, right? The after part of it, he gets to hang out with all the people in his community, the ones that do enjoy him for who he is, the ones that respect him, the ones that give him that place for him to be him outside of his acting job of being a bad guy in a video game. So it taking taking the expectations that people put on you and then taking it back for yourself and being like, hold up now, this isn't me. And I want to be me. And so I will be me. And I understand that this is a job that I have to do for me to survive. But other than that, outside of that job, I'm not that person. I'm me. And this is something that my sister tries to she's talked to me about a lot. It has to do with like, you're more than just your job. You're more than just what you put your time into. And it's like what Liv was saying earlier about that whole capitalistic feel of you have to produce something. You have to output things always. And the truth is you don't. You just have to exist. You just have to be. You just are you. And that's the truth of it. And we go on to our last question for the evening, and it's has gaming helped you through a hard time? And I know we were talking a little bit about this earlier, Liv, with COVID and the political change and all that stuff happening earlier. But yeah, like definitely gaming for me has helped me through some really tough times. It's helped me disassociate. It's helped me provide a spot or a place, be it safety or I guess safety would be it provided me with a safe space as I learned how to grow, as I learned how to survive. I talk a lot about when I was a child, I didn't have many friends. And sure, I had friends in school, but I wasn't allowed to have friends at home. I wasn't allowed to go to sleepovers. I wasn't allowed to go outside. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. And what got me through all of that was video games. I played a lot of games throughout my life. I didn't even have many other hobbies besides gaming. And they created this bubble of safety for me, in which, when it came time to grow up and be an adult, and when I say grow up, I don't mean like, just the next stage of life, as opposed to like stop everything that you love to move forward. It kind of hindered me in a way that I didn't know how the real world worked. I only knew video games. And that's, this is before streaming was a big thing. This is before a lot of that. Nowadays, you can, it's easier to express yourself through gaming with streaming and stuff like that. Back when I was growing up, that really wasn't the case. And even if it were, I'm pretty sure my parents would be against it. So, because they always wanted me to go into like math and sciences, and that's exactly what I did. And then like once I got there and graduated, and I realized that no matter how much I did want to make games and stuff like that, I was already emotionally blocked so much by the idea that video games could not be a positive aspect in my life, that it changed my career. It changed how I wanted to live. I no longer had the confidence to believe in myself, to make video games, or to be a streamer for that matter, or anything game related. Right? It was just like, no, that's not possible. It's just like anything with arts and stuff like that. It was always math and science. Math and sciences were the key to moving forward, and that's what I had to learn. And yeah, so video games did get me through that. Donkey Kong, to Star Fox, Zelda, Mario, Crash. I grew up with all those guys, and they definitely did help me get through a lot of that time in my life where I couldn't express who I was, but I was able to just go and have a good time with who I considered, my friends of like, you know, the video game characters, my pals, those guys that were there for me because all I had to do was boot up the game and they could be there, you know? So yeah, they definitely did get me through some tough parts of my life of just surviving, of just not being able to express who I am, of just, you know, even when it came to games like League and Overwatch, right? They showed me that how toxic I was being, right? Sure, I had to get called out on it and I had to learn a lot from it. But yeah, they helped me through the hard times of growing up, the growing pains of emotionally becoming more and more of a stable person. I'm not sure if that's the right word, or I guess I really wouldn't say stable because I'm still very unstable. But as I grew up, it's just more of a emotional growth, and it helped me through so much of those dark times that I did have of needing to grow up and providing for me as an escape from reality. How about you, Liv?
Sorry, I was having some issues with my cats. Can you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, you're
Like
fine. You're
to get
fine.
prompt? Yeah.
The question is, has gaming helped you through a hard time?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like we talked about before, COVID gave me a sense of like connection. I played Death Stranding for the first time during COVID, and that was like before I had as close knit a group of friends online. Um, I got Death Stranding on a lark when it came out, and had no idea that it was all about a pandemic, basically that had like shut down society. And you were trying to reconnect it, and so it was obviously like very, very fitting at the time to play that game, but also like kind of gut wrenching.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it showed like how much hope there was in like finding a way to reach out to each other, to like, you know, whether it's passing each other notes or supplies or um, just letting people know that they weren't alone. Uh, that game was just a really, really fitting thing. And then there's been other times too where I've been recovering from surgery, or
Hmm.
I've had, you know, major illnesses, or I've just had a really rough time, and sitting there and starting up a game has been a really nice escape for me that isn't too harmful, right? Like
Yeah,
it's yeah, I mean, you can make the argument that anything in too big a doses is bad for you.
sure. Yeah,
But there's no question that when it comes to like coping with stuff, like reading a good book, watching a good movie, or playing a good game, it can kind of take you out of your own life and let you experience somebody else's for a little bit. And that
hmm,
in and of itself is the respite sometimes you need in order to be able to focus on your own issues again and fix them.
yeah, 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 for
So
sure, for sure.
yeah, it's been a good it's been a good thing. I'm very thankful to gaming for that. Not to mention gaming in general is just what gave me Twitch.
Yeah,
And Twitch has been the best thing that's happened to me in a few years. So it's
yeah, I feel that.
yeah.
Yeah. Perfect Aspect says, absolutely. Oddworld for the PS1 single handedly got me through being bullied in school. Then came Kingdom Hearts and forget about it. Yeah, I feel that. Games let GPC says games let me live a life I couldn't because of medical pass, and that's true. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that like you know I always think about uh how I can't go anywhere or like I have trouble, you know, going places because of my medical illness, and like gaming is there for me. You know, gaming is one of those options that I have to be able to experience a different life, like you said, or experience team play or experience communities, finding those communities and you know being connected online from it. Can't go anywhere, can't play sports, list goes on. Yeah. And gaming provides an alternative to that. Perfect Aspect also says, funny enough, I was the one to show them Kingdom Hearts when we were younger. Many moons ago. Indeed, that was many moons ago. Many, many moons ago. I was, what do we say this came out in 2001? It was a long time ago. I always forget the year that Kingdom Hearts came out, but it was a long time ago. And I definitely remember playing that game for the first time and the impact it had on me of being true to your friends and being there for your friends and all that stuff. And again, it that's also played an important role in my life and how I help people out. Along with being alone and knowing that, like, what it's like to be alone and wanting people to never experience that aloneness, right? Which is, I can't stop that feeling because being alone is something that'll happen even if you are with somebody. It's just something that's like, I try to explain it like an experience bar. And like you have to build that loneliness meter up so that you can be okay with living alone. Just like and like no amount of relationship or connection will build that meter up. You can have friends be there for you while you build that meter up, or whoever be there for you, but you got to work on learning how to be alone and being okay with doing things by yourself, or else that meter is never going to fill up and you're always going to stay at the base or wherever you left off and wanting more, like a connection of some sort, when it's something that has to come from within. Because there were many times, even when I was in my relationship, where I felt lonely, and like that's when it kind of dawned on me that, like, just being together with somebody doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna be okay being alone. Because you have to have your own life, right? You have to live your own life. You have to experience your own life, and the only person that you got to live with is yourself. And like you got to be comfortable with who you are, and that means also having those lonely moments. That means exploring that those dark times, or maybe not even dark, just those lonely times. They don't have to be anything other than lonely. And just learning to be okay with that. And that's hard to do. That is extremely hard to do, especially when we're always connected to each other. Now we're always connected. Like there is no getting away from not being connected. And it can be tough to find that value for yourself, especially nowadays. Like I said, we're always connected. So it's always easy to just pop onto social media or pop onto wherever and just let the brain rot consume you so that you don't have to be alone, right? You try to avoid that loneliness so much that you literally consume whatever is there in front of you to try and stop that loneliness from existing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's I'm pretty sure, man, there is a storm going on outside right now. It is such a huge storm. And I know we've ran over time by like an hour, over an hour. But I've had a wonderful time with talking with you and y'all today. And I think unless y'all have anything else you want to say.
I wanted to say thank you so much, Kat, for inviting me onto here to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, same.
And I got you a little something to say thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, I got you a key for Spiritfarer.
Oh, well, so thank you very much.
Yeah, so you can give it a try.
I appreciate it. I look forward to playing that game very much.
Yeah, I'll send it to you on Discord. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming out today. And I really appreciate you having this conversation, Gad. It's nice to have these conversations about something that isn't just about the meta in a game or
yeah.
Like those things are fun to have, but like this is nice because I feel like people don't talk about how much of an amazing medium for art that this industry is. So Yeah.
It really is. It truly is. And there's a lot of work that goes behind each and every bit of it. Y'all in chat, if you have anything to say, speak now. We're gonna do our closing soon, and you know, I'll probably be live for a little bit later afterwards. But Perfect Aspect says that part is so exhausting, having people assume my attention's on tap for them, thanks to how it is nowadays. Instant access always. It's nuts. It is nuts. It is true. It is very true. And like you have to find you have to find that balance of learning how to turn people away just so that you can have your own peace of mind. And it's something I struggle with, and it's something I'm working on because I feel like the need that like I have to always be there for somebody, or else the connection between us isn't gonna hold. And it's something that you know, believe it or not, from Kingdom Hearts, it's what Winnie the Pooh and Sora go through. And oh, sorry, you guys aren't gonna see Liv real quick. It's one of my quotes that I have in my Discord profile, and it's a conversation between Sora and Winnie the Pooh, and they say, if there ever comes a day when we can't be together, keep me in your heart. I'll stay there forever. And that's something that I tell myself whenever it comes to my connections and my friends, that like, you know, I'm understanding that not everything needs to last forever, but the connections that you do have currently right now, there's got to be trust in them. There's got to be some sort of like, it's okay to let go, because just because you're not there doesn't mean that it's not actively still growing in some way, in some form. Right? It's like you wouldn't overwater a plant too much, and it's the same thing with online connections. But thank you all so much. Sorry you're late. Oh, no worries. No worries. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for doing the stream. Enjoyed hearing things discussed very much. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate every one of you for joining me today. Again, y'all, we'll give Liv a shout out. Go watch Liv. Go follow Liv. If I can spell your name. There you go. She's a wonderful person, an amazing streamer, and I love her streams very much. She has so much insight on gaming, and I love her content. Really a cozy place to be, and the vibes are always immaculate there. I'm there. I know I don't speak a lot in there, but I'm there every day. I try to be, because I love your contents very much, and I love having these conversations with you, and I love hearing what you have to say about the games that you play, and watching as you experience them.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you.
So and thank you again for Spiritfarer. I can't wait to play that myself.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll disconnect, but thank you, and have a great night, Gad. I'll be in
you have
here,
a great one as well.
I'll be in here hanging out if you play some games or something else too.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll catch you later.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Turn off the camera. All right. And let's go ahead and do... Which no shot at me spelling it correctly, so that's fair. I have trouble with spelling myself. It's the typing. I used to have amazing typing skills, but when you don't type after a while, you lose it, right? But thank you again, everybody, so much for joining me today. And I know we've kind of went 2.5 hours instead of our 1 hour, but I had a really good talk with Liv and all of you, and you know, trying to get a gauge on this first episode as we make waves into this podcast of sharing our feelings with each other. Let's see. Again, going over a little bit of what we learned today about the definitions that we went over. It's like it's interesting to see, and just kind of the lessons that we went over today. It's interesting to see. I do have Squidward art, yes. I do very much so. It's interesting to see how games affect us differently. How games can show us very much emotional sides to ourselves, and to talk about what they mean to us in an online sense, in a story driven sense, in a community sense. Bold and brash, more like belongs in the trash. Nice. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you being here and supporting this, because this is something I've grown to be very passionate about, and it's something that I want to continue talking about, and I will. Next week we're actually going to have our episode 2. Episode 2 is where did it go? Oh my goodness. Where did it go? I just had it. There you go. There it is. I'm just blind. Episode 2, we're going to be diving into some episode 2, where is it? I do blame the old age. Once you hit 36, things just kind of my notes here don't match what episode 2 is about. Episode 2 is going to be about managing tilts and frustration. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting episode about how gaming in general, despite like any kind of game, because I crashed out on playing Kingdom Hearts, and there's healthy ways of managing tilt and frustration, there's unhealthy ways of managing it. And so tomorrow we're going to be going more into the aspect of what is tilt, what is frustration in gaming, and how we can. Super Castlevania, all right, yeah, that's true. I crashed out on Super Castlevania not too long ago, and how we can manage those emotions and talk about different experiences that we've had with it. Our next episode already has a guest star. He's another one of my friends, McJiggins, and he's gonna be. Isn't it water? No. Water is the emote. I don't know. Damn. I was wrong too. I don't remember it either. But yeah, next episode is going to be on tilt and frustration, and I look forward to it. I look forward to talking to him about his experiences with it, about my experiences with it, and about y'all's experiences with it. So again, thank you all so much for coming out and supporting me. I really appreciate you all very much, and I look forward to next time